This episode of Hero Club is supported by our good friends over at Mage Hand Press. Check them out at magehandpress.com and buy their High Seas supplement for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition to Shanghai your own group of adventurers. If you like Hero Club, remember to rate and review on your preferred platform and tell your friends.
Welcome to Hero Club. I'm Nick Williams.
And I am George Primavera.
George and I have been playing D&D together for years.
Now, a lot of people think you need to be a big, huge nerd boy to play Dungeons & Dragons.
But in reality, you just have to be willing to spend 4 hours of your own time on a weekday trashed on cheap beer cross-legged around a coffee table.
I lost a game of Flip Cup in 2012, so I had to buy all the books and learn how to be Dungeon Master. My dad was disappointed.
Yeah, he was. But after a game or two, we realized that it's actually a really fun and effective way to tell an awesome story.
Yeah, it's like long-form improv, but you kill more people.
Here's what you need to know. George creates a world and the framework for a cool story.
And the players, like Nick, create characters beforehand, all with special abilities, sometimes magical, sometimes not, and they adventure through the story as best they can, trying not to die.
We, the players, roll dice to see if our improvised actions fail or succeed, trying to beat a number in George's head that he promises he doesn't change at will.
But at the table, I am God, my game, my rules.
Okay, so it's as nerdy as you thought. You know what? Just f*** off, man.
Whoa,
F*** right off,
all right,
okay?
Nick, maybe don't tell everybody to F off. And it's not that nerdy. I mean, we get rid of all that stupid math, and we add music and sound effects and stuff like that, so, you know, it's cool.
Anyway, these stories do follow a linear plot, so if you want to know what's going on, start at the beginning of any season you like and have fun with it.
Without further ado,
welcome to Hero Club! Yeah!
So, you lot want to hear the story of the old wives' tale, eh? Well, you're luckier than a pig in Portsow then, aren't you? 'Cause I've just had me 4th ale, and my tongue is feeling a mite loose. Gather round, lads and lasses, and I'll regale ye. Now all you know, back in the days of old, when all us fossils were young and full of vigor, the glorious kingdom of Emporia was cracking down hard on any of us buccaneers they caught on the open sea. Mind ya, this is just after the salted predators hunted down just about every magician and magical artifact in the land. So we were taking 'em serious. But there was one pirate captain that evaded capture at every turn, caused more than a wee headache for the armada soldiers that he encountered. Captain Drake Muldoon, an otter with a hook for a hand and a silver tongue, the slipperiest salted sea dog in the western waters. They used to say that the reason he was never caught by the authorities was that he and his crew was cursed from venturing into unknown waters far to the east. Something about them being destined for a darker fate. Well, turns out those theories may have had an ounce of truth in them, because the journey of the old wives' tale was a dark one indeed. I warn you now, even a big bear like me gets spooked recounting this yarn. So little lions, sharpen your claws, all you wee robins, steel your beaks, and cowardly creatures, plug your ears. For here in this story, there be monsters.
the sky is electric blue, the sea a deep teal. Wispy clouds do little to block the harsh rays of the sun that reflect off the ocean's surface in a glorious display of light. The waters off the western coast of Emporia are tranquil in appearance but deceptively dangerous as gallivanting pirates and cruel military ships clash daily. Suddenly, we see the water disturbed by a cruising galleon, exceeding 9 knots thanks to the healthy inland breeze. As the weathered oak of the galleon passes, we see the stern of the vessel, golden letters emblazoned under some resplendent windows. The Old Wives' Tale. The ship is well maintained, but its chipped starboard and port sides betray its age. The golden ornamentation has worn down, and the sails have been patched with mismatching cloth in places. The most striking detail about the galleon is the enormous carved walrus head that forms the bow, its massive tusks reinforced with copper, now an arresting, oxidized green. On board the ship, we see our noble pirate crew. Orders are barked by a few prominent members of the crew.
To your positions, lads. Chip chop.
Ooh, it looks like there's an island way over there.
Lilia, what have we discussed about the terminology?
Sorry. Land ahoy.
Much better. Thank you. Standing proudly behind the helm of the ship is Captain Drake Muldoon. At 5'1", he's short for even a sea otter, but he carries himself like a much larger creature. Dressed in fine black and teal captain's attire, and brandishing a two-pronged hook hand, he moves back and forth across the deck barking orders in a dance he's clearly done 1,000,000 times before. Lockerbie, south by southeast.
Aye, sir.
Harrington, hoist those sails.
Righto, Captain!
Devereaux, fly our colors. We're coming in hot.
Oh, I'll get on. I guess it's...
Bastion, head below deck and ready our men for combat.
Aye, Captain. Penguins, follow!
10 penguins in various states of dress line up behind
Bastion Lagrange, a 7-foot-tall elephant, adorned in a simple vest, simple pantaloons, no shirt. The only thing resplendent about this creature is an earring on his right ear with a filigree of feathers. On his back is a large, simple bow staff. His movements are somewhere between the grace of a ballerina and the sways of a drunkard. All right, penguins, down below we go. I know that Vivian is very frightening, but we have to talk to him, so please, Biff, Buff, you go first. Okay, fine, I'll go first. Vivian!
Deep below decks, various creatures are setting up the cannons, readying them for battle, being overseen by a pair of dark green, menacing eyes. These eyes belong to
Vivian Stoker. This 3-foot-tall mouse has the personality of a snapping turtle. Dressed in simple black bug leather, it's not his clothes that give him an air of menace, but rather this cold and prickly demeanor.
Anyone I have to tell anything twice to gets a trip to the briny deep. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir. Sorry, going as fast as we can.
Shut your mouth.
Vivian, are your cannonades ready for battle?
Aye, they're ready. Now stop riding me tail spot about it.
Okay, we need to have the men ready for battle above on deck. So if there's anyone you can spare.
Any idle beast get above deck right now.
a muskrat and a possum poke their heads out from behind a big pile of gunpowder.
What's that? What we need to do?
Congrats, you just volunteered, gents. Topside, right away.
The two creatures scurry past hurriedly up the stairs.
Bastion looks out to the rest of the frightened creatures. You are out doing a very wonderful job. The captain is very proud of you.
No, you're not. Back to work.
Just go upstairs, you're going to make him mad. Without anybody touching it, the door slams shut as Vivian waves his hand downward. Panning back up to Captain Drake Muldoon, now peering through the lens of a telescope.
Lilia, by your estimation, how far are we from our target?
Quite far, I'd say.
If you could just be a bit more specific, that would make me so very happy.
Up in the crow's nest,
A traditional spider monkey, Lilia Longtail Randazzo is adorable. She wears a sturdy dark brown vest trimmed with a pretty sky blue color. On her left wrist, she wears an assortment of thin, golden, and obviously homemade bangles. She has an eye patch covering her left eye and is currently whistling her favorite song, but she doesn't know the name of it.
Ooh, actually, now that I think about it, probably about 2 kilometers.
Thank you.
Anytime.
a massive island begins to appear through some mist, and docked at the shore of this island is a massive man-o'-war.
Ha ha ha! It is but a small fellow. We shall have him presently. All hands on deck.
Penguins, you are the captain? Yes, quickly, Richardson. Why would it be slow?
The penguins begin to bustle about, whistling in people's faces, although everyone seems to understand precisely what they are saying.
What the salt are these hog-bent featherbags saying? I haven't the faintest clue. Salt this, I'm going above deck.
Vivian pokes his head up and begins to survey the scene next to Captain Drake Muldoon. Suddenly, a bulldog opens the cabin door, dressed in a very fancy red vest and black pants with golden stripes. Edgar Churchill checks his pocket watch.
We are almost within range, Captain. How would we like to proceed? Stealthily or perhaps bombastically?
Drake calls up to the crow's nest again. Lilia, how populated is their deck looking?
Maybe about 12 or so?
We're going in loud. Everyone, let them know we're coming. Right, full speed ahead.
The galleon takes off towards the island.
Captain, I'll be heading below deck to secure our wares. I think we'll be able to take quite the haul off of this fellow.
As do I. If our intel is correct, we're in for quite the score.
I can't wait.
Churchill disappears into the cabin.
So, Captain, I am very happy that we are going in bombastic this time. But even going in bombastic, there are some choices that we may want to make things more interesting. Should I roll out the red carpet for you, or are we just going to ram our boat into them? Again.
Well, Bastion, it would be a pity if I let you have all the fun. We'll go in all together.
Good. I was hoping you would say that. Bastion goes over to a barrel, grabs a bottle of wine, pops open the cork, and begins to drink.
The ship is fast approaching, but the HMS Beauregard appears to have noticed. You see several long oars begin to descend from the ship, and they begin to turn the ship sideways, broadside, to meet the Old Wives' Tale. But the ship is big, bulky, and almost ashore, and as the Old Wives' Tale begins to approach, it becomes clear they're not going to be able to get their cannons ready and the ship in position in time. The HMS Beauregard is at the mercy of the Old Wives' Tale.
Captain Muldoon throws off his coat and unsheaths his cutlass, swinging it around himself a few times as practice, limbering up. All right, men, let's introduce ourselves. And with that, Captain Muldoon grabs a rope and swings across to the other ship. What?
On board the HMS Beauregard, two soldiers of the Armada, or blackjacks as they're referred to by pirates, spot Captain Muldoon flying through the air, one hand gripping a rope.
Is that a flying squirrel?
I've never seen a squirrel with wings.
The lieutenant begins to yell at these idle cabin boys. What are you fleabags doing? Prepare yourselves for combat!
What ho! Drake attempts to land cutlass first into one of the blackjacks. Botch.
As the cutlass whips downward at the first cabin boy, a stout porcupine, inexplicably it flies out of Drake Muldoon's hands and embeds itself in a mast.
Drake uses a bonus action to disengage with the two, slipping between the porcupine's legs to go retrieve his sword. Curse my wet hands.
The rest of the crew follows suit, flying on ropes, leaping from off the deck, etc. Except for Lilia, who begins clumsily reloading a musket.
I think that goes in. Oh no, it's the other one first, and then you do. Right. Oh, everyone's gone now.
Lilia has drastically miscalculated how to reload this musket, rendering it completely useless. Luckily, this happens often, and she has 4 more at the ready.
Bastion watches Drake lose his sword, and he sighs. I should have rolled out the red carpet for him. Okay, penguins, give me a chant. Bastion backs up 10 feet and runs straight off his ship, bounding over, sailing insanely far through the air.
Below Bastion's soaring form, a frightened moose and a brave chihuahua, all decked out in Armada attire, begin to ready themselves.
Whoa, that cloud is coming right at us!
In the air, Bastion readies his bow staff and lands directly on the moose.
Oh!
Hello!
The moose is flattened into the deck. The chihuahua pulls out 2 short daggers.
Foolish pirate. Now it is time to meet your fate at the hands of Stumpo Houlihan.
Bastion flourishes his staff and makes 2 strikes against Stumpo Houlihan. 11 and 25.
1 miss, 1 hit.
11 damage. The bow staff cracks Stump right on top of the head, knocking him out clean. That was disappointing. Bastion's trunk uppercuts the moose. 20. 8 points of damage.
The moose, shakily regaining his footing, begins to try to pull out his cutlass, but he accidentally pulls out his canteen, probably suffering from a pretty severe concussion.
Does anyone want to actually fight?
3 more blackjacks move out to meet Bastion Lagrange. The hatch on the main deck of the HMS Beauregard blasts open with a bright purple light as several creatures sprint out.
We gotta get out of here!
It's the worst thing I've ever seen!
The last guy out, a badger, trips and is dragged back down. A horrific scream is heard before Vivian Stoker emerges from below deck, having boarded the second Drake gave the order. Gun deck's clear.
Lilia is giving a general overview of what's happening on deck before her eyes spot a red and white pinto stallion with a pointy captain's hat.
Ooh, well, he looks important.
Lilia begins muttering under her breath softly.
The mumbling has a slight tune to it, almost like a song. Below, on the deck, the aforementioned horse captain has gotten to Drake Muldoon's sword before he has.
Ah, Drake Muldoon. At last, I shall win my glory by dispatching the most famous of pirate captains. You will remember the name.
The horse begins violently vomiting and holding its head.
Drake gives a nice work symbol to Lilia, walks over, pulls his sword from the post, and stabs the captain in the chest. 20.
That's a hit.
28 damage.
In addition to the 19 damage brought on by Lilia's spell, the horse captain falls instantly.
No glory here, I'm afraid, old chap. Just another item on the hangman's bill. And Drake throws himself back into the fray.
As soon as the captain falls, the remaining members of the crew put their hands up, dropping their weapons to the deck. Only 5 remain.
Drake scans the deck for the highest-ranking official.
A pigeon in Armada attire, with dainty spectacles resting on his beak, peers around at the pirate crew, quivering.
Vivian, with me. Drake grabs the pigeon and drags him into the captain's office, with Vivian in tow.
Vivian slams the door behind them.
Now listen here, my feathered friend. I know there's treasure aboard this ship. I know you're hiding it somewhere, and you're going to tell me where it is, else I'll leave this room. And I can assure you, my man Stoker here is a rather unpredictable fellow.
I shall not be telling you anything, pirate scum.
All right, you leave me no choice. Mr. Stoker, take the floor. And Drake walks out of the cabin and closes the door.
Please, you can call me Vivian. Mr. Stoker was me father's name, but I never met him, and it's left me rather unhinged.
Vivian, make an intimidation check.
15.
The pigeon stares back at you, scared, but finding a bravery within himself.
And what is a mouse like you going to do to a glorious avian like me?
From seemingly nowhere, Vivian pulls out a rollable kit of tools, holding it up and lets it unfurl, revealing the gnarly implements of torture to the pigeon.
Make an intimidation check.
29.
Outside, the muffled screams of the pigeon disturb everyone within earshot. After about 30 seconds, Vivian exits the cabin.
New friend in there says the rest of the crew's on the island. He's not rightly sure what they're doing, but get this, Captain. They've got Jack the Mouth. Says they're fixing to kill him.
That does make a lot more sense, Captain. This crew was very easy to dismantle. I barely did anything. I hit a chihuahua on the head with a stick and he went down in a second. It was very disappointing.
Apparently there's the ruins of an old temple up island. He says that's where they'll be.
And we haven't a moment to lose. And this time, we are going in quiet.
Edgar Churchill yells from the old wives' tale.
Shall I begin cataloguing the stalls?
Yes, that would be fine.
Cheerio, have fun on the island.
Lilia! We are going on land!
Lilia, surprising them all by coming out of the window of the cabin, makes her way over to the captain.
On my way over, I heard a really sad noise, and turns out there was a pigeon crying in there. He's really upset.
Nah, he's fine.
Lilia, we're heading on to the island. They have Jack the Mouth.
That's nice.
No, that's bad.
Oh, right.
Drake ushers a small party onto the dinghy of the HMS Beauregard and begins to row towards the island.
The dinghy lands ashore, and Drake Muldoon, Bastion Lagrange, Lilia Longtail Randazzo, Vivian Stoker, and a couple other members of the crew climb ashore. A crocodile by the name of Donk Rednail, and a fox by the name of Barlow Reagan. referred to affectionately as Barley.
Hey, Captain. Thanks so much again for taking us. We never get off this ship. This is pretty exciting for both of us.
Yeah, to be honest, it's gonna be so much fun.
Barley, donc, just remember that the captain chose you mainly because you are very quiet. And we are on a stealth mission. So as the first mate, I will say that I would like you to remain as quiet as possible. Not saying anything at all, really, if that is possible.
100%. I'm happy to be as quiet as you need, and if you need anyone to do any talking, then I'm happy to step in, and I can really...
Barley, I think you're being louder than he wants you to be. But what do I know? Maybe you're not being loud. Hey, this is the first time off this ship.
Bastion smiles, nods his head, and leans into Vivian. I get it, but you're not allowed to kill them.
I wasn't gonna kill them, I was just gonna do a minor curse.
Drake takes point and begins to chop his way through the low-hanging vines, heading further into the jungle.
Make a perception check, everybody.
9.
18.
10.
16.
Lilia and Vivian simultaneously notice a scuttling of footprints in the dirt, leading uphill.
Captain, it looks like they're going this way, like a lot of people.
Lilia, Vivian, both of you make a survival check.
9.
18.
Lilia, you can garner that there are probably about 25 to 30 blackjacks in this group.
Maybe about 30?
All different sizes, not sure what kind of beast they are.
Well done, chaps. And Drake begins following that trail.
Lilia tries to high-five Vivian,
Vivian doesn't acknowledge it.
so Lilia high-fives herself.
After about 5 or 6 minutes, the small posse reaches a massive stone face. The stone face is far too smooth and sheer to be natural. And as you approach closer, you notice there is a long seam in the wall. A little bit of inspection and some dusting the surface reveals a carved pig's head. The footprints appear to end here.
Vivian spits on the ground.
Bastion spits on the ground.
Now, you missed. Drake spits on the pig face. Long live the queen.
Barley and Donk are very intimidated by this gigantic carving.
We supposed to go in there?
I mean, not that I have a vote, but if I had a vote, I wouldn't go in there.
I wouldn't go in there.
No, not in a million years.
We're going in there.
If you boys don't want to come in, I can always bring just half of you in.
Maybe he just means one of us, and the other gets to stay outside.
Oh, okay, you want to shoot for it?
Sure. Tooth, nail, spine, shoot! Ty. Do it again. Tooth, nail, spine, shoot! God, Ty again.
You're good at this.
You're good at too. Tooth, nail, spine, shoot! How does this keep happening?
3 times the tie, none of us go in.
Vivian rolls his eyes at Bastion.
With his one good paw, Drake begins to pull one side of the door open.
It's quite heavy, you're gonna need some help with this.
Bastion takes the other side.
The door slowly is pushed open. Torches light a stairway that descends deep into the ground, but it's rather brightly lit.
Oh, this isn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be.
Yeah, I could see myself holding a party here.
Well, I guess let's just go in.
This is the most I have ever heard you two talk, and we are going to talk about it later.
Donk rolls his eyes, a little bit peeved.
Ever since you shanghaied me from my little island, I've done nothing but take orders from all of you. You know what? Let's go. Let's go in there. We could just go in there and take whatever's there for ourselves, can't we? Come on, Barley, my best friend. Let's go.
All right, my best friend, let's go in there. You know what? This reminds me of a little tiki bar I was at. It was probably about 10 years ago.
A trapdoor has opened up, dropping both the crocodile and the fox deep into a bottomless pit.
Well, I can't say I didn't see that one coming.
Which one of us shanghaied them?
I was going to ask the same question. I remember offering them both a very fair amount of money, and paying them monthly for years.
I mean, I've shanghaied a couple crew members, but it wasn't those two blokes.
I suppose we'll never know. Ah well, tick-tock. Drake grabs a torch and inspects where they fell.
You can't see the bottom of this pit, nor have you heard any kind of impact, but recognizing where this trapdoor has opened up, you can see several more spots on the floor, but they are easily avoidable now that you know what they look like.
Drake begins to hop, skip, and jump his way across the floor, navigating around the spots.
The rest of the crew follows suit, and they all begin to descend the staircase. Faint, echoey voices can be heard, floating their way up the stairs. Eventually, The landing party of the Old Wives' Tale comes out to a rather large room with a deep, deep chasm in the center of it. A long plank rests on the other side of the chasm, definitely long enough to be used as a sort of makeshift bridge, but it is on the other side as of now.
Alright, everyone. Stand back. Bastion takes a running start and jumps over the chasm.
The little earring in Bastion's ear begins to glow as he shoots across the 40-foot chasm, landing deftly and lightly on the other side.
Before picking up the plank to create the bridge, Bastion takes out a flask and takes a big old glug. Okay, here comes the bridge!
As everybody reaches the other side, a voice echoes from the bottom of a spiral staircase. This voice is familiar.
Look at the bunch of you salty galahs. Pathetic. Hey, grass eater, why don't you come and suck on my udders?
Yeah, that's Jack.
Recognizing the voice, Drake picks up his speed, but stays in stealth the entire way down.
Everybody roll a stealth check, please.
23.
21.
11.
17.
The group makes their way down the spiral staircase. Vivian almost trips and wipes out down the stairs, but just manages to catch himself. Lilia actually snagging the back of his collar and keeping him upright.
Don't you dare touch me.
As they reach the bottom, the staircase opens up into a small vestibule, and through an archway, there is a massive, cathedral-like chamber. Pillars made of ancient stone extend from floor to ceiling. Dark obsidian black chains swing from the ceiling, all apparently connecting at the bottom of a dark well, the bottom of which none of you can see. Standing at attention, approximately 30 blackjacks flank the sides of this pit. The commander stands at the head. You recognize him as Commander Siegfried Bosch, a cruel, cold, calculating tiger with a single black stripe extending from his nose all the way down to his tail. The rest of his fur a dark orange. He addresses his crowd of men and Jack the Mouth, who is standing at the edge of the pit, flanked by 2 blackjacks, holding his arms fast.
I suppose they call you Jack the Mouth for a reason. Though I must admit, I anticipated your jibes being a bit more clever.
Well, that's a shame you're not impressed. Why don't you come over here and let me pull some guff out of your towel spot?
After the 4th time, it does get amusing, even I must admit. Do not fret, Mr. Cummings. You are part of something much larger than a simple execution. Your death shall mean something. Our Majesty requires something of you, and you shall provide it, willing or no. And there is no insult you can throw my way that will prevent this from happening.
Oh, I don't know about that, Coochie Coo. Well, you might be right, Coochie Coo. But before I go, why don't we just touch a little?
The 5th time is far less amusing. I have had it with your insolence, Mr. Cummings. It is time to proceed with the ceremony. Ever shall she reign.
The 2 blackjacks begin to edge Jack closer to the pit. But as they do, Jack, a muscular kangaroo, jumps up, split kicks both of the soldiers in the head, and they go limp to the floor. In the process, he has pulled out 2 cutlasses from a bug leather pouch that is strapped around his body.
I told you when you checked me. You gotta go deep into the pouch.
You blithering knave, we outnumber you 30 to 1. Execute this poucher.
Looks like our cue. Give no quarter, lads! And Drake charges from the shadows towards Jack the Mouth.
Drake Muldoon. I should have known.
Long time no see, Jack. Living up to your name, I see, as per usual.
Drake, you bloody galah! Turned up right at the spot.
That is my M.O. Ha-ha!
Vivian rushes towards the nearest blackjack, a leopard, and will attempt to assassinate him. 27.
Success.
Vivian is still in stealth, and this blackjack's back is turned. Vivian rounds the corner, runs up the leopard's back, and lands squarely on his shoulders in a seated position. He plunges in his dagger and rides the guy to the ground as he falls, landing squarely on his feet.
Lilia, eyeing the tiger with great dislike, narrows her eye.
I don't like it when anyone messes with my friends.
And raising her hands, she casts dissonant whispers at 4th level. for a total of 13 damage.
Succeeding his wisdom save, Commander Bosch grabs his ears in some apparent distress, but he shakes his head and regains his focus.
In full sprint, Drake looks back and yells to Bastion, "Get me to him!"
Aye aye, Captain!
As Bastion gets in stride with him, Drake jumps onto the elephant's back and lets him do the work.
The earring once again glows, and Bastion bounds off the floor, leaping 28 feet towards Commander Bosch in a sea of blackjacks. I got this, Captain! Go!
Using the momentum of the drop, Drake launches himself off of Bastion's shoulders and clears the rest of the blackjacks, hurtling towards Bosch.
As Drake flies over Jack the Mouth's head, Jack throws him a little wave.
Just as springy as ever.
Drake rounds the pit, heading directly for the tiger. Why don't you and I get some privacy, Bosch?
Yes, let's. Commander Bosch pulls out a wicked-looking serrated sword and readies himself for combat. He dashes towards you, raising the sword, and swipes down with immense strength. 12 to hit.
Miss.
The sword clangs down onto the stone surface.
You can run, but you cannot hide, Drake Muldoon.
Don't worry, Bosch, I'm not going anywhere.
Meanwhile, the Blackjacks have clumsily thrown themselves into the fray. In the ensuing chaos, all of our pirate heroes are minorly injured from the swinging cutlasses and flying grape shot. Vivian takes 15 damage. Lilia takes 4 damage. Bastion takes 7 damage. And Jack the Mouth takes 9.
Bastion starts to drunkenly sway, hitting as many blackjacks as possible. 18, 21, 16, 21.
4 soldiers go down.
Bastion twirls his bow staff around his neck, hitting 2 blackjacks in the head, and then punches out 2 more.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking, Jack the Mouth? I think I am Jack the Mouth. It's fighting time! Jack plunges his cutlasses into the boots of a nearby black bear, and once pinned, balances on his tail and uses both feet to kick him to the ground.
18, success. The bear goes down hard.
A sinister, gaseous green light crackles around Vivian's hands as he locks eyes with both of the soldiers who landed hits on him and hits them both with Eldritch Blast. 24 and another 24.
Both creatures go flying backwards as this crackling green light impacts in their chest.
Lilia looks up at the chains dangling on the ceiling.
Well, that looks a lot nicer up there.
From seemingly nothing, Lilia opens a trap door on the floor, pops into it, and inexplicably drops onto the chain above.
One of the Blackjacks sees Lilia go through the door and dives for the trap door, knocking himself out on the hard stone floor.
Surveying the scene from above, Lilia looks at her captain, and as she does, begins to sing, giving him inspiration.
Come all ye freemen and ladies in chain to a wondrous place where the spirits untamed. In a cruise, the home of the damned, the scourge of the east, a pirate's last stand. So drop your anchor and grab a tankard, now lift your cup high, to freedom we sing.
Inspired by Lilia's song, in a smooth, almost choreographed fashion, Drake's footwork moves him into position, and he lunges at Bosch with his cutlass. 18.
Hit.
33 damage as Drake's cutlass slashes Bosch's side.
To all of you sinners, come young and come old, we have what you yearn for, more precious than gold. In a cruise, the home of the damned, the scourge of the east, the pirate's last stand. So drop your anchor and grab a tankard, now lift your cup high, to freedom we sing.
I've had a change of heart, Muldoon. You will make a far greater sacrifice.
Commander Bosch lunges in turn for Drake Muldoon. He attempts to grapple you.
17.
Commander Bosch grabs you by the throat, lifting you aloft. And holding his wound with the other hand, begins to walk towards the pit.
When this day began, I never thought I would be bringing about the end of the infamous Drake Muldoon.
Again in the chaos, there's a flurry of metal as all of the soldiers begin to descend on the pirates. Seeing that their commander has gained advantage, they suddenly feel that they can turn the tide. However, almost all of their attacks miss. The only one to suffer any damage is Bastion, taking 4 damage as a cutlass just barely nicks his side.
As one of them lunges for Bastion, his trunk wraps around their hand and guides their sword directly into their friend.
Bill, I'm sorry!
Bastion, I seem to be in a bit of a pickle here.
Bastion goes sprinting towards his captain and the commander.
Several of the blackjacks make swings at Bastion, and Bastion mostly evades everything, except for one blackjack who gets a good piece of his thigh as he runs past. But then Bastion is at the commander and his captain.
Hello! Bastion unloads on the commander. 20, 22, 25.
3 hits.
36 points of damage. Bastion takes 2 strikes with his bow staff, then balls up a fist and strikes directly under the chin in a spot he knows causes beasts to seize up in pain, stunning the commander instantly.
Bosch drops Drake Muldoon.
Thank you, Bastion. Sorry for the fuss.
Anytime, Captain. I will be a few feet back if you need me. And Bastion drunkenly sways back into the crowd.
Come at us, you blackjacks with cannons galore. We'll send all your galleons to the dark ocean floor. To the cruise, the home of the damned. The scourge of the east, a pirate's last stand. So drop your anchor and grab a tanker. Now lift your cup high. To freedom we sing.
From across the pit, you hear a voice call out.
Hey, cobbers! Heads down, bums up! Jack the Mouth, grabbing an armadillo blackjack, punches him in the stomach hard, causing him to curl up into a ball.
Successful hit.
Once curled, Jack uses the armadillo as a ball, and with his huge kangaroo leg, kicks him at the commander.
Unfortunately, Jack shanks the armadillo to the left, and it smacks into one of the chains, causing all of them to rattle loudly, and the armadillo falls into the pit. There's a moment of silence, and a blinding purple light shoots out of the pit in a pillar of energy. Lilia, can you make a strength check for me? Lilia just barely manages to hang on to the chains, but she is hanging from one arm now. Your noses are assaulted by the smell of sulfur. Commander Bosch looks distressed.
Wasn't supposed to happen.
All of the blackjacks, clearly never having seen this before and having not been warned in any way about the results, drop their weapons, back up, and flee. All of them making for the staircase as fast as possible.
Drake puts the tip of his cutlass up to Bosch's neck. What have you done, you cockroach?
Fighting against his muscle spasms, he attempts to lift the sword high, and suddenly, it begins to rain. Indoors, as you all look up to see where the rain has come from, you see that this gigantic purple laser has blown a hole clear through the roof of the cavern, and a storm is raging outside. Bosch, seemingly knowing what he has to do, drops his sword, resigns himself, and whispers under his breath, "Ever may she reign," and lets himself fall into the pit. Another blast of purple light, this time with a bit more of a hum to it, and then silence. Everybody please make a perception check for me.
14.
17.
13.
7.
Bastion, you're the only one who notices a crank on one of the pillars, attached to all of the chains in a big spool.
Captain, I do not know how long we should stay here, but there is a crank on that pillar for the chains up there. And Lilia, I would get down from there as quick as possible.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And Lilia makes her way over to an attaching pillar and deftly climbs down.
Vivian, do you know anything about this? This looks like your kind of magic.
Make an Arcana check, Vivian.
7.
Sorry, mate, this ain't my kind of magic.
It was a bright purple light. It smelled like rotting eggs.
Captain, what should we do?
Well, I know what I'm doing. See you later, fellas. I'll hit you back one day.
Jack, already at the base of the stairs, throws up a kind of salute and quickly makes his way up the stairs.
Well, we went through all this bother. Might as well find out what's at the bottom of this pit.
Captain, we came out here to save Jack. We've done that.
We came out here for a score. They brought 30 blackjacks down here to protect whatever's down that hole.
The rain is torrential now, falling only inside of the pit. It's beginning to fill with water, and eventually starts to spill out over the rocks.
Drake begins to turn the crank.
As the crank loudly turns, the black chains begin to pull a large object out of the rainwater. As it begins to emerge, it becomes clear that the object is a gigantic black diamond, a full 1.5 meters in diameter. As our pirate heroes stare at it, they only see their own faces reflected back. But upon closer inspection, the reflections are off, and the closer all of you stare, you notice that your reflections are not of your face. They're of your skull beneath. It's deeply unsettling. Your stomachs turn violently.
It's beautiful.
See? Bastion, what did I tell you? Big skull.
I don't like it. I have 2 eye patches in this one.
Not again, Captain. I can't do something like this again.
Quietly, up in the rafters of the chamber, over the roar of the storm, you hear,
Ever may she reign.
I set upon the ship at dawn, I wouldn't dare be late. Abilities were checked to see if I could pull my weight. For my first meal, a lemon peel, the best I ever ate. The grand old ship began the trip, our fortune we were making. Silver, copper, platinum, gold, I seek the things that can't be sold.
This has been a Hero Club production, produced by Nick Williams and George Primavera, with associate producers Marty Abbey Schneider and Dylan McCollum. Voice acting by George Primavera, Nick Williams, Hannah Fagerbacke, Dylan McCollum, Marty Abbey Schneider, and Benjamin Watts. Theme song written by Matthew McCollum and performed by Hannah Fagerbacke. Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod for his fantastic music, Maychan Press for their groundbreaking homebrew, and Marty Abbey Schneider for his incredible artwork. Thanks for listening, and welcome to the club.
The deck is fine, the rigging line is glistening with dew. I'll count me blessed if I ne'er rest till this world I subdue. In every cove's a treasure trove.
It's all for the taking.
Silver, copper, platinum, gold. I seek the things that can't be sold. I seek the things that can't be sold.
Hey, grass eater, why don't you come and suck on my udders?
Why you come suck on my tits?
Well, that's a shame you're not impressed. Why don't you come over here and let me pull some guff out of your towel spot?
I thought you were going to say, why you go over here and suck my udders? Oh, no.
That was great. But
Double down on suck my udders. Like I told the other guy, get over here and suck my udders. Sorry.